Hey everyone, so today we're going to be starting on a new project that I'm going to be calling Project Warrior Restoration. This is the roughest Yamaha Warrior I've ever purchased. So what we've got going on is the seat's missing, the plastics are missing, it was missing a carb, it was missing the battery. It's got a lot of issues and whatnot. So we've got, let's see, wiring harness issues, things missing, headlights missing. The steering shaft is bent, the bars are bent, the front brake lever is missing. So we've just got the hose hanging out here. The front bumper is all bent up. I found out, unfortunately, after I bought the bike that the block is cracked from the chain snapping at one point in time. I did JB weld it and it seems to be holding a good seal, so we're good there, I guess. The chain is gonzo. The rear brakes missing the master cylinder brake reservoir up here. Like I said, the carburetor was missing. I threw one on there. The tube in between the airbox missing. Battery missing. I threw that one in. Tires are absolutely bald. Rims are in pretty rough shape. Somebody painted them white at one point. So yeah, that's where we're sitting. So what we're going to be doing today is completely tearing everything down to the frame. I'm going to be sanding and painting this frame. Hopefully I could get this bolt out for the swing arm. We're going to see if that's going to be another project all in of itself. Not sure what's going on down here on the carrier. Somebody, I guess, attempted to weld the carrier. I'm not really sure why, but we might be getting a new carrier. They're only like 60 bucks. The axle doesn't appear to be bent, but it's really hard to tell with it in the vehicle like this. Suspension's blown. You can see it's been leaking for probably a long time. But yeah, the frame itself is pretty solid. We've got some pretty good stuff as far as the frame goes. No major rust areas, no major bend areas. The control arms all look solid. So yeah, we're going to see what we can and can't reuse on this. But as for now, let's start ripping it apart so we can repaint the frame and start with a good platform. All right, so I am just going to get right to it. I'm wearing some pretty crappy clothes because I feel like I'm going to get dirty when I go and start pulling things apart. First thing I'm going to do is disconnect my battery so I don't have power going anywhere. Last thing I want is shorten things out. Although I am replacing the wiring harness too, I believe. Why not? And as I go, I'm just going to be placing parts in my garage and kind of just laying things out so I don't lose things as I go. Battery is out. Just don't want to lose my little specialty screws here. Battery going in the garage. All right. So I guess, let's see here. I'm going to start with the wheels. Let's rip the wheels off. They should be 14 millimeters. Yep. And we'll grab an extension. And the back's missing some lug nuts. And now we know why. That one's not really holding there very well. Looks like it's got some crunchies in there. Nice stud boogered up there. I guess I'll throw the nut back on, even though that's never gonna be used ever again. Looks like the rotor was touching the bottom skid here at one point. That's awesome. What is that? 12. That's 10. All right, continuing with the wheels. There's only 2 on this side as well. Yeah, at least the studs aren't boogered up. All right. Let's leave these nuts in place and remove the front wheels. Oh, we still have some brake pads in there. Amazing. Oh, I forgot to mention also, I did get this bike started. I did ride it. That's why I have a new carb and a new battery in there. I wanted to see if it shifted and ran, and it does. But unfortunately, it's going to need a top end rebuild. So that's another thing we're going to be doing. We're going to be pulling this motor out and rebuilding the top end. Not exactly what I was hoping to have to do with this bike, but it's the facts of what it is. I didn't pay much for this Warrior, knowing that it needed a lot of work, and that's certainly what we're going to be doing. Okay, so only one stud out of the whole bike that needs to be replaced. As you can see, these wheels are in rough shape. Let's get them inside. And somebody started scraping the white paint off this one. All right. I don't want the bike moving too much on me. It's a little better. All right. Let's go for the front. I'm going to pull off the bumper. That does not look like it's very happy. 12 millimeter. And this bumper is unfortunately going to be going to the scrap pile. If I can pull it off. And I'm putting my bolts back in place because 1, I don't want to lose them, and 2, when I go to paint the frame, I don't want to paint over these holes. Come on, buddy. She doesn't want to come off. There she is. That's probably going to the scrap pile. Okay. Bolts back in position. And I think these are 14s. Yep, 14 millimeters on the control arms. Let's disconnect the brake line. That looks like a 12. All right, brake lines are loose. Now I just have to pull the tabs out here. And I want to put my bolt back in position so I don't lose that. I guess I'll do that after. Just grabbing some pliers to pull out the tabs for the brake lines. They don't look very easy to access. You can get this one from this side. Yep. And I'll get this one from this side. I'm just tapping these with a screwdriver. And some pliers on the other side. It's moving. There's two. So our brake lines should be free. Move around there a little bit, throw the bolt back in position for the splitter. All right. Brake hoses can pop out of these little brackets that are on the control arms. They're just held in there with these little rubber doohickeys. And do I even want to take the calipers off? Yeah, I guess we'll take the calipers off. And then I'll fish one of the calipers through, which I think it'll fit. Let's do it. 12 millimeter on the caliper. That doesn't fit. Oh, I forgot my little clamps for the brake lines. Can I fit my gun in here? Yes. Caliper numero uno. And I'm going to put my bolts back into the caliper bracket so they don't get lost. And I may have to disconnect a brake line here. Kind of looks that way, because I'm not going to be able to fish a caliper through here, I don't think. No. All right, let me grab a 10 millimeter wrench. And I should just be able to grab the line with some pliers. It's just kind of in a weird position in here. And I'm using a very little wrench. And somebody painted over it. There we go. Broken free. Almost done. Oh, and there's some brake fluid leaking out, it looks like. Which is, I guess, good. Probably a lot of water in these lines, being that the brake line's open to the environment. Oh, it looks like oil in there. Or should I say brake fluid? Okay. Caliper numero uno. I'm just going to set this aside. And then I have the caliper and brake line I need to fish up through here. Let's pull that out that way. All right. Then we will be removing our caliper on this side. These calipers are on there. I'll assume my backing plate is a little bent or something, and it's just preventing me from pulling the caliper out. This should pop out. There it goes. All right. Now I've got to fish my line through here. And there's the other caliper and front brake line assembly. Throw my bolts back into the caliper. All right. Front brakes in the bag, in the garage. Okay, the gas tank's just kind of chilling there. I've already cleaned this out, so there's nothing in there. There's a bunch of gunk. I cleaned it out with some distilled white vinegar and some gasoline. All right. I also don't want to lose these clips that hold the brake line in place up here. Okay, now we've got 14 millimeters holding this together. I think what we're going to do is, we don't want to leave it a roller. We're going to just disassemble everything. All right, just cleaning up some tools, moving on the side. Let's grab the 10 millimeter. And I'm just going to start disconnecting stuff here. So wiring harness, got the rear tail light, got the rectifier here. Ooh, these plugs are crusty. Okay, rectifier, rear tail light. Man, these look like they haven't been apart who knows how long. Okay. And the wiring harness. Oh yeah, I've got throttle cable. That's not even right. Okay. Now the wiring harness, I'm just disconnecting from everything. We've got a plug that goes down to the stator. We've got some more plugs. This one. Looks like it's going to a switch. This goes to this plug. Oh, and there's another plug right here that goes down to the stator as well. And these plugs are in there. Ooh. Okay. Stator unplugged and out of the way. That's a breather tube. Okay, wiring harness is completely disconnected for the back now. Let's get the 10 millimeter on here. I'm going to pull this air box, give myself a little bit more room. Air box. Rear tail light. Heading into the garage. All right. So now the wiring harness should be able to come up and through. Unplugging this ground that somebody hacked together, that's going right to the block, so that can stay there. Just continuing through. Wiring harness. Okay. We want to disconnect everything up top. So we've got two plugs for the starter switch. Ouch. We got the plug here. Some zip ties holding me back. This is the ignition, if you want to call it that anymore. Ignition going to the junk pile. Okay. We have the front coil, which I did replace. So we're going to keep that. That's brand new. All right, then the rest of the wires are all basically unhooked. I just have to fish it back through the frame. And this wire comes up here and goes down to the starter. So we're going to leave that. That's the main starter wire with the starter solenoid. And then we've got the ground wire here going straight to the block. So here's the wiring harness. I'm going to keep it because I still have the CDI box. I still have the little lights that go in the neutral and the reverse. All right. I think I'm going to remove the carb just to get that out of my way. Carburetor. I need a wrench, 14 millimeter. All right, so I'm just unscrewing the carburetor. I already have the throttle cable disconnected from the throttle because I was trying to give the bike a test drive the other day, and that's actually the wrong throttle cable. I was just trying to use one so I could ride it. And of course, it's one of those pain in the neck carburetors where you have to turn the nuts in a certain spot on the intake boot where the nuts don't spin because the boot widens out. And it seems like it takes forever. There we go. Okay, this carb is going to have gas in it still. And I also want to take this throttle cable out. Okay, throttle cable and carburetor. Dump the carburetor out. That seems relatively dry. All right, so now I have my 14 millimeter wrench for the front suspension. Everything's disconnected in here. I guess I can remove my rear brake assembly. And somebody just has a nut and bolt through that. That's interesting. It's not how it's supposed to be. Let's see, it looks like a 10 millimeter. Let's see if I can snag that real quick before I disassemble the whole thing. Huh. Okay, I mean, kind of looks like it belongs there, but I don't think so. Okay. Bolt's going back into place. Maybe. There we go. Okay, this is the emergency brake cable. Looks like it's still attached. Kind of crazy. You don't really see that too often. These are usually long gone. So, yeah, that doesn't turn. I think I'm going to just cut it. Let's see if this thing will move back here. I highly doubt it. Oh, it does. So close. But yeah, so far. Oh, I know why. Because the cable's way extended out up here. Let's see if I can turn this in. It looks like somebody's kind of already stripped the threads here. Looks like it's turning in. A miracle. Thought the threads were stripped out up here in the handle. It looks like they're still working. It's just a lot of dirt and crud packed in there, which is preventing me from moving it very much. Oop, there's a grip. That goes in the scrap pile. Oh, that doesn't want to move. Cable's still pushing. But I cannot get this out. Let's see if I can disconnect it down here again. This is the way it goes with some of these older bikes. Some things are easy to disassemble. Some things really are not. So let's try pulling this e-brake cable up and out. We're out. Now I got to disconnect it from the actual lever. That's the hard part. Let's see, I think that's a 12. Yes. Let's just throw a ratchet on there. Come on out. Oh, it's right there. It wants to. Just has to slide. Come on through, little guy. There it goes. E-brake cable's out. Okay, now the rear brake should be able to sneak through here. Oh no, I dripped a whole bunch of old brake fluid on my shoe. Okay. Just grab the gun for this. I'm going to use a 12 millimeter. Move the rear caliper. Think I can sneak it? Nope. Looks like I'm gonna have to use a ratchet down here on this bottom bracket bolt. Rear caliper off, and there's still brake pad in there. Ooh, this brake fluid's stinky. Probably some pretty old stuff. Okay, brakes are off. Now, let's try to pull the chain off. Let's see, there was a master link on this one, so somebody replaced the chain after they cracked the case. I'm not really sure how they didn't replace parts or fix the case, but they didn't. So that's what we're dealt with right now. Okay, just popping the master link. There's the clip. Let's see if this chain comes apart though. No. Let's grab a hammer. Well, this master link is linked in there. Really good. It's moving. Oh, there it goes. Where it went, nobody knows. Here's this link. Oh, of course, now I just lost the clip. Not like we're going to reuse it. Here's a nasty, rusty chain. Going to the scrap pile. Okay. Rear suspension. Looking like we've got a 10 millimeter here for the shock reservoir. Okay. Putting bolt and bracket back in place. All right. What's next? Guess we remove the rear shock. That looks like a 14 millimeter. Yeah, it's not a 12. There's a washer behind this nut. And nut behind the washer behind the nut for the wishbone. Oh, it looks like I need to take off the chain stay because it's in my way. Or the chain guide. Which is completely wasted. Scrap pile. And all right, so that's a bunch of 14 millimeter nuts on the wishbone linkage for the rear suspension. Oh, there's another one. I almost missed it. And we should be able to remove this suspension. Let's grab. I'm going to put these all right here for right now. What size are those? Those are like 17s, it looks like. Yes, there's 17s on this side. Interesting. So 14 millimeter nuts, 17 millimeter bolts. Let's see if they come out of there. Whoop. There's one. Now, the whole shock should be able to come out. Let's see. Of course, you got one that's maybe stuck in the housing or stuck in the sleeve. Yep. Sweet. And that one's covered up by our shield. So let's remove the shield. I think it's a 12. Yep. Oh, and there's a nut on the back side. All right, let's find a 12 millimeter wrench. And let's remove this bolt first. The washer came out. Save that guy. There's another one under here that I'm not really sure how you access because my rotor is right in the way. So, well, that's a pain. I've got this other one right here. Washer and nut. And same deal here. I have to figure out how to get these two bolts right here out. So I think what I'm going to do is go in right here with my wrench. And unfortunately, I have to use a ratchet to do it by hand. I hope that let's see how much work this whole rear swing arm needs, but this whole thing may need to be rebuilt. And we'll also be finding out, possibly the hard way, how hard it is to get the swing arm bolt out, the main swing arm bolt. All right, the bolts are breaking free. All right, last bolt. Now I'm actually going to throw these bolts back in to this guard just so I don't lose them, because I don't really have anywhere else to put them. And you can see how long that rotor's been grinding into there. And you can see how long the chain's been grinding into there. We'll see if we reuse that or not. All right, what's next? So we're having an issue here because this bolt doesn't want to come out. And I'll assume it's stuck. Nope, not bad. Got it. I was going to say stuck in its own sleeve. Let's grab a screwdriver here. Boom. Don't want to lose that bolt. Now, the suspension. Look at that old rusty, crusty guy. See if we can even get this thing rebuilt. Okay, so I am going to put these nuts back. This is the top, this is the bottom. Okay. So I'm going to put these bolts back on the suspension so I know where they go. All right, the top bolt will not go through easily, so I'm just going to leave it here for now. Okay, let's knock out the front suspension. So we need a 14 millimeter extension. We've got the wrench up here already. So let's disconnect the front steering first, actually, because that's going to be an issue. So I want to disconnect my clutch cable as well. Still have the clutch cable hooked up over here. So let's see if I can do that. All right. Let's try that again. It's really just the boot stopping me. It's not happening, Captain. Oh, I've got an 8 millimeter right here I could take out. Let's do it. For a bracket. Okay, now I should be able to get it out. I think. There it goes. Okay. Both of these cables can come up and out. And so we need to disconnect the cotter pins here on these inner tie rods. Cotter pin 1. Cotter pin 2. And now the fun part. We need to disconnect these tie rod ends. So I think I'm going to try to hit them with a impact gun. I believe they're 17 millimeters. Yes, 17s. Let's see if I can get at them here. There's one. There's 2. All right, so I'm going to put the castle nuts back on. So I don't damage threads. And then I need to give these some smacks with a hammer. And I don't care so much about the steering shaft because the steering shaft is bent. So you wouldn't normally do this. But as you can see, I just gave them a little tap. And that freed up the joint there. Now I can take off my castle nuts and drop the tie rod down and put my castle nut back in place. The same thing with the other side. Remove the castle nut and put it back onto the tie rod end. All right, now we are ready to start disassembling the front suspension. So 14 millimeters front and back. Let's actually remove the front shock. So it's a 14 and a 17. I'm going to put the bolt right back through the shock. And same thing on the bottom, 14 on the front, 17 on the bottom. Same thing, I'm going to put the bolt back through so I don't lose stuff. And to the other side. Okay, let's get these out. One. And two. All right, throwing the shocks inside. Now we can remove the front suspension. So like I said before, 14 front, 14 back on this. And I guess I'm going to remove the bottom ones first. Right into the mud. And the back ones, oh. The back ones on the lower, I might not be able to hit with a gun. Just barely. Okay, bolt. Bolt, and there are washers on these guys, so don't lose those. And what? Oh, come on. So apparently you can't take out. Interesting. Can't get this bolt out up here because the exhaust is running right into it. So suspension staying on this side right now. I guess let's move on to the exhaust real quick. Should be pretty easy. I think it's 210 millimeters. Yeah. Let's see if I can get these off. Hey, look at that. Exhaust stud number one, no problem. Of course, I spoke too soon. And you can't hit this one with a gun. Impossibly. So we've got to do it with a ratchet. Guess a ratchet doesn't even fit in there. My 10 millimeter socket doesn't even fit in there. Looks like we've got to try to use a wrench. What a pain in the neck. What a bad spot. Okay. Okay, luckily it's not even really that tight. Can get it with my little stubby wrench, luckily. Oh, and then it just wants to come off. No problem. Almost. All right, it's spinning. Shouldn't be an issue. So awkward of a spot. It keeps binding up. I'm sure it's a little rusty. Do it by hand yet? Oh, a little bit, little by little. Not really. It's coming. There we go. There it is. All right. Exhaust loose. Now I just have to go do the bolts all the way through. So this unbolts here. Oh, and they're 12s, not 14s. Okay, that is loose. Bolt, bolt. Need an extension. Oh, I'm just gonna put all this down. Let's see if this will split here. Yeah, right. Yeah, I doubt this is going to want to split. So I almost have to twist it. Yeah, right. Okay, so my dilemma is the exhaust doesn't want to split here. The bracket is very loose, but that's probably never been apart. So let's continue on with other stuff. I should be able to sneak the bolt out for the front suspension now. Let's see. Maybe. Oh, so close. Yes. Got it. Okay, so that's definitely something I wanted to be able to accomplish, was removing the front suspension. I am just planning on leaving the assembly together for right now while I get everything back together. I'm going to pick up all my nuts and washers and bolts, and I'm going to go put these in my control arm so I don't lose them. Last thing in the world I need to do is start losing nuts and bolts on top of all the other stuff that this quad is in need of. These all look like they've been anti-seized, and all the bolts came out, which I was amazed at. All right, now let's do the other side. So 14 millimeter, and the impact gun. And I still have the wishbone half apart. So let's just knock out this front suspension real quick, and then we'll come back to over there. All right, same deal. We're just removing the bolts if they'll come out. This one might be our most stubborn control arm bolt. Let's tap it through. Whoop. Not what I meant to happen, but all good. All right. Same thing. I'm just going to be throwing the bolts through. Oh, look at that. We lost a bunch of caps. Bug flying around my face. There's another cap right here. Ouch. And these are all obviously going to get cleaned up, possibly new bushings thrown in. We'll see. We'll see how bad they are. But yeah, I plan on redo the suspension as well. The control arms look good, so these guys will be reused. All right, now the only thing left on the front is the steering. Let's knock that out. Should be 12 millimeters up top. And then we've got a cotter pin down here. Let's just take that out now. So cotter pin. And I want to say that's a 14. Yes. Okay. Let's grab the 12 millimeter. Oh, those have tabs on them so that the bolts can't come out. Guess you don't want your steering coming loose when you're riding. All right, so now the steering should come out. Yep. And it's kind of hard to tell, but you can see it tweaked that way. All right, moving right along. The front's pretty much done. The exhaust is loose. This might be a nightmare. Now let's just try to remove the engine. So we've got our reverse right here that I should just be able to unbolt here. Let me put this bracket in here as well. All right, reverse is just the standard Allen key. And I'm going to throw these bolts back in. Okay, reverse, I'm just going to tuck up there. So that's out of the way. Now we need to access that lower bolt down there. That looks like a 14. Oh, I also have the nut and the cotter pin I have to throw on the bottom of the steering shaft so I don't lose this. Okay, so we've got the 14 millimeter. Looks like anyway. Whoops, dropped down the center block. Okay. And there's another one right here. So I need to take this side cover off. For the chain guard. And that should give me access to this bolt. Which is a 12 millimeter. A 13. Guess we're changing sizes. And I just dropped a needed tool down the cinder block. So I guess time to get the magnet out. Okay. Got that. See if I can find the nut in there while I'm in there. No. Okay. So a 13 millimeter there. Not sure how the sizes are changing, but I guess I'm not going to complain. Who knows how many people have worked on this bike in the past. Definitely a 13. Okay. That bolts out. Now it looks like it runs into my reverse. So how? Oh, look at that. Reverse moves out of the way. Bolt comes out. There's motor mount number 1. Now, motor mount bolt number 2. Let's see if I can tap this through. Grab the hammer and see if I can tap it through. It's moving. This one looks grimy. I didn't think that this was going to come out so easily. Running into anything? No. Going straight through. It almost comes out. Could probably hit it with the 14 millimeter on this side now. No, of course, it's not a 14 millimeter. Let's see. It's just stuck on the threads. And I cannot turn it. What size is that? This thing is so dirty. All right, well, let's try to get that out after. I've got another 14 millimeter right here on the front lower. Let's get that out. Ooh. There it goes. Okay, let's try tapping this lower one through. That we're just riding on the... Oh, no problem. Okay. Now we've got the top motor mount right here. So, got these weird 12 millimeter bolts up here and a 14 right here. I don't know why some things are different sizes on this quad, but they certainly are. Okay. Now I need the 12 millimeter to remove these bolts on the inside of the frame. Unfortunately, I have to do these by hand. Oh, I guess I have a ratchet. Oh, yeah. Duh. All right. Whoa. All right. Where'd my other bolt go? That's not cool. Okay. Bolt's going back in position. Still don't know where one of them is. There it is. Stuck right on the frame. Look at that. Okay, so now I should be able to... Oh, I still have the shifter on this side. I have to disconnect. Good thing I saw that, I guess. So it looks like a 10 millimeter. Let's get it. Get in there. Ratchet 30. shifter linkage on the Warrior is a little bit weird. It's got a weird bracket that goes over to the side step. So let's try to remove the side step real quick. 12 millimeter up top. And then it looks like 14's down below. All right, so if you're seeing it like this, my camera died. So basically I undid the lower motor mount, this upper motor mount, a lower motor mount right here, and then there was an upper motor mount here that had a bracket that mounted right here. So I undid these 12 millimeter bolts. I undid the bolt for the motor mount here. I twisted the engine up this way and moved it forward and then was able to slide it out. So what you missed was I also removed the foot bracket, whatever, foot peg bracket, whatever you want to call it. So it was 14 millimeter bolts and a 12 millimeter bolt right here. The other 14 millimeter bolt is still sitting over here in the brackets. And the other thing I had to disconnect was the reverse, dropped that down, and the exhaust, which was here, I kind of had to destroy it, taking apart where the clamp was, where the front header attaches to the rear exhaust pipe. Let's see what else. So on this side, I had to disconnect the foot peg bracket assembly also because the shifter is attached to that bracket assembly right here. So I pulled the 10 millimeter bolt out, pulled that little shifter assembly off, and then disconnected this whole thing. Once I took the 14 millimeter bolt out on the bottom and the 12 millimeter bolt out up here, I was able to push down to where I could get a socket on this 14 millimeter bolt. And that was obviously sitting right here. And then there was the other one on the other side. So let's see what else. So the motor is out. I pulled that out. Had a little bit of an oil spill. Oh, the other thing I did was remove the starter. There were two 8 millimeter bolts, one here and one right there. Then I was able to pull the starter out, but it did leak oil out of there. So there's a rubber seal and there's a whole bunch of dirt and crud right there at the moment. So here you can see all the exhaust material because I was hammering on these ends. I'm not sure if that's stock gasket right there, but I had to kind of booger this up in order to get it off of this end. And the exhaust studs are still there and intact. They're a little bit rusty, but nothing a little bit of steel wool won't fix. Here's all my parts laid out. I've got the whole front suspension, the front steering shaft that's bent, the foot pegs assembly, the rear shock, wiring harness, carburetor, exhaust, battery. That was just a battery I threw in there for the time being. The rear guard, that's the starter that I laid there that I took out. So yeah, we have to rebuild the top end of this motor. I'm going to put a new clutch in while I have things all apart. I'm probably going to sand down this JB weld and make sure that I did a good job with the crack fix and ensure that I have a good seal there because this side of this case is cracked. I'm possibly going to replace the stator because somebody went and started probing these wires, so they probably have a whole bunch of corrosion and damage at this point. I'm going to replace the ground for the motor, and that's basically the ground for the entire wiring harness that goes back right to your battery and attaches to your wiring harness in multiple places. And let's see, what am I missing? I already cleaned out the gas tank. That's nice and cleaned out. There's my air box assembly. This is basically the whole quad laid out other than what we got right here. So, oh, the other really cool thing. So I took a 22 millimeter to this nut for my rear swing arm, and it looks like that came off real easy. And then I took the 22 millimeter over here, and it started actually coming out. So it looks like we're not going to have any issues with that rear bolt being an issue with pulling the rear swing arm assembly off this thing. And then we can really start to paint this. Oh, the other thing I still have to pull off is the grab bar and my rectifier over here for the stator, or regulator, whatever you want to call it. Regulator, I guess, is really what it's called. So I'm still also facing some broken bolts that I have to drill out and fix. But this frame is looking very solid. I'm not seeing any real crazy repairs or any real crazy bends. It all looks factory to me, as bad as some of these welds are. This is a 1993, so who knows who was doing these welds back then. And yeah, we're going to get this thing all painted up and start with a really solid platform with putting this thing back together. So that's where we're at now. We're going to pull this main bolt out for the rear swing arm and make this a bare frame. All right, so as you can tell, we're continuing on. Once again, my apologies for the battery dying, but as you can tell, the main bolt, I already have the nut off on this side, but it's spinning, no problem, like a dream. This might be one of the biggest gifts on this entire quad. Let's try pushing this bolt through. Oh my goodness. Somebody put anti-seize on. It looks like a brand new bolt. Oh my goodness. Now, of course, I can't get this screwdriver out. And I just broke it. But anyway, the bolt is coming out. It's amazing. So I am just grabbing an adjustable wrench. This is a miracle. It's like a Christmas miracle. So I kind of want to prop this up down here more so. Let's see. Take some of the stress off that bolt. And now as Adam Sandler said, I should just be able to give it a little tap, tap, taparoo. It's working on it. Kind of got that screwdriver stuck in there, I think. There we go. Bolt is out. Look at that. Clean as a whistle. That is really, really, really nice to see. You never see that. This is a 1993. So somebody has obviously been in here and done some work on this rear axle assembly. Oop, there she goes. Look at that. We have a rear swing arm out. So we just have a bolt here that I need to knock free. And I'm going to put the nut and bolt back on the main swing arm bolt. Bunch of dirt and debris inside there. That is a relief. The last quad I worked on, it took me probably 4 hours to get that swing arm bolt out of a 400EX. That was much newer than this, actually. All right, so here's my broken classic antique screwdriver. Guess that's going to the scrap pile. And now I need to get out the bolt for this wishbone assembly. Let's see if this moves at all. Oh, yep, it's moving. There it goes. And that's actually a specialty bolt. That has a grease fitting on the end of it. So we want to be careful with that one. And now the whole rear swing arm assembly should come out. It's probably going to want to drop out of there. And hopefully the last tool I'll need. Prying to coax it out. And there it is. Complete rear arm assembly. Looks a little rough. And I'm actually just going to put that bolt with the grease fitting into the wishbone so I do not lose the washer or the specialty nut for that special bolt. And that's it. I have just the frame of the Warrior, and this is the solid base that we're going to start with. Like I said, possibly before here in the video, we've got no major repairs. All of the little weld-on washer things are still in place on the control arm brackets. We have no major welds or repairs, no major rust issues. Obviously, some of these welds could have been a little bit better done from the factory. The undercarriage looks pretty good. Not too much scraping up under here. Look at that, even just like barely scraping through the main paint on the original paint coating. A little bit of a dent right here, but that's a solid bottom part of a frame for a 1993. Look at that, no rust under here. It's incredible what you can find out here in the Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, Utah borders. The good old four corners. This is what you find. A 1993 Yamaha Warrior. That is probably more solid than most 2004 Warriors that you find on the market today. So let's get started with this restoration and rebuild process. Thank you for watching.